Joining us now, Congressman, 9th District, Republican, Morgan Griffith. Congressman, great to have you with us, sir.
Great to be with you.
16 states, including Virginia, filing a lawsuit against the president saying, sorry, can't do your national emergency. Mark Herring involved in that. Of course, he's, 5,000 miles away from the border, but he jumped on the president's team saying, look, we have this authority vested in us by the Congress, 1976, in the National Emergencies Act, and it's going to ultimately prevail in the Supreme Court. What say you? You're a lawyer.
I happen to agree with the president's team on this. I mean, it is possible that the court will rule the entire statute. The whole bill from 1976 was unconstitutional, but it hasn't been challenged up to this point. And assuming that the underlying bill is not unconstitutional, then I think the president's within his prerogatives to do this. And, they looked at it for months, and I suspect that his lawyers are telling him the same thing that I believe, that unless they throw out the entire emergency provisions and say that Congress could not give away that power, and that's a legitimate argument to make, the president's within his authority under that bill. Now, it's a part of the ongoing problem that we had with Obama, and that is Congress gave away so much power over the last 50, 60 years that when people start arguing this is unconstitutional, it just doesn't make any sense, because the bill was passed by both houses, signed into law, and been on the books since 1976. Congress gave the president that power, and now they want to complain about it.
Why did they do it back in '76? What was the objective?
Well, I don't know. I was a high school student, and while I followed politics, this was not an issue that I remember being one of the hot-button issues. Most of the time when Congress ceded that authority, in various types of authority, it's because they didn't want to deal with it. And my guess is that they were tired of being called back in for this emergency or that emergency to pass a bill, and they said, you know what, we're just going to give that power to the president. If it's an emergency and he deems it to be an emergency, we're going to give him that power, and then, he keeps us informed, and if we don't like it, we'll come in and we'll pass something that says he can't do it. And the Democrats are going to try that, but this is what always happens when the legislative branch gives power to the executive branch. Mm-hmm. It now takes a countering bill with the signature of the president. Mm-hmm. Well, why would he sign a bill that undoes his own authority when he knows for sure he's got at least a veto-proof minority in the House to back him up?
Right. So even if there is the resolution that goes up to rescind the president's national emergency, there's not 2/3 in probably either house in order to override his veto. He's just going to veto, obviously, because he just did it. Obviously, he's going to veto it, and they can't muster 2/3 in both houses, so he's safe there. So it goes on. You would expect the Ninth Circuit, one judge there, to put a stay on this, right? One would expect.
I do.
That. Yeah,
I do expect that, and I think it'll go on up. The interesting thing will be whether they determine that the president's actions were in violation of the law, or whether they say that the entire law is unconstitutional. Mm-hmm. That's actually the better argument, that Congress never had the power to cede this authority to the executive branch, in which case it's going to call into question every other one. And some of these, including the emergency with Iran, have been on the books since the 1970s. Mm-hmm. Jimmy Carter declared an emergency with Iran, and it's still on the books. Mm-hmm. It's still active. Mm-hmm. And so we'll have to come in and do some extra heavy work if they rule it's unconstitutional.
So you're saying that the one argument that the one wild card is the Supreme Court could say the whole 1976 National Emergencies Act was unconstitutional, strike the whole thing down, which then takes all the baby out with the bathwater, right? Everything goes.
That is correct.
And then you're going to all the decisions that have been made under that guise, and there's been many of them, right? Hundreds of them. Then Congress is going to have to unravel it all.
There have been dozens. I don't think we've gotten quite to 100 yet. But, yeah, we'd have to all of those would then be invalid, and we'd have to come in and sort it out and fix it. But you know what? That's our job. Right. And we ought to be doing it instead of constantly giving the executive branch more power. Because while I agree with President Trump on this one, Who knows what I'll agree with the next president? Hopefully, a long way out. But still, there may be somebody that I don't agree with. And Congress needs to take this power back. The Constitution gave us that power. That's where people are arguing. It's our power. The problem is we gave it away back in 1976.
Mm-hmm. Well, this stuff comes back to haunt you, right? When you give power away at a certain time for cover, now they're going to have to deal with it. So
Yep.
we'll see what plays out. A lot of people, look, Congressman Griffith. At the end of the day, you can never really predict what SCOTUS is going to do. And if you're in that business, get out of it because you're not going to be successful. Who knows? What Roberts is going to do.
I was very disappointed with the Supreme Court on their Obamacare ruling, and Justice Roberts' opinion, in my humble opinion, was not logical.
Right. And nobody saw that coming, right?
No.
In fact, he changes his mind on it. Justice Kennedy at the time was skeptical, but then came over to the side that it was unconstitutional, and then was shocked that Roberts flipped on him. And so you just never know what goes on in there. We're with 9th District Republican Congressman from Southwest Virginia, Morgan Griffith. Congressman, let's get to the McCabe interview on 60 Minutes. And, of course, Joe McCabe involved in Virginia. Dan McCabe's wife, the doctor, got $750,000 from Terry McAuliffe's Political Action Committee to run against Dick Black in 2015. That's been under suspicion and investigation for some time. Now McCabe goes on TV and says, we were looking at counting noses in the cabinet, trying to invoke the 25th Amendment. How many votes did we have? We didn't like him. We didn't think he should be president. And Rosenstein was going to wear a wire. No, it's true. He brought it up again. That's the deputy. I mean, I just had this conversation with Sheriff David Clark. I can't believe that this is not being met with absolute outrage by the media, by the legacy media, by the American public. I mean, you basically had the highest officials in the United States Justice Department trying to basically take a president out. It's like a coup d'etat, and everybody's just like shrugging their shoulders over it. What am I missing here?
Well, you're not missing anything. It was I think that Congress needs to look into it. I think we have an obligation to find out why an agency, unelected, was going after the President of the United States to the level that they were. I've always thought that was one of Trump's biggest mistakes. He should have come in there and cleaned house in that agency to begin with, because it was known after the whitewashing of Hillary Clinton's illegal conduct, or at least extremely questionable. I mean, I said at the time to one of my friends who's an FBI agent, if that was one of my clients, you might have pled it down, but you'd have had me in there and said, you plead down tomorrow morning or you're going to jail for a long time. Mm-hmm. And once it was clear that they were, going back and forth and didn't know what their role was, Comey should have been gone from day one, and it wouldn't have caused all these issues that we now have. And I know the president was trying to come in and be gentle and nice, but it just doesn't always work that way, and he should have gotten rid of some of those folks. But clearly now we have to look and see, just how deep this conspiracy went, and there needs to probably be a special prosecutor to determine what they did that was illegal and was legal, because I don't know where they have probable cause to be looking at the president, and then they're going to sick the top part of the agency. It's a good agency. A lot of good people work there, but the top officials were after the President of the United States without any probable cause.
Well, the probable cause is they didn't like his policies.
Well, it certainly appears that way, and unless there's something else, I think there are a lot of people that need to have their comeuppance.
Well, you're certainly not going to get it with your democratically controlled House. They're now going to be subpoenaing people for going on with the Trump investigation. In fact, Adam Schiff the other day said even if Robert Mueller comes back with nothing, which there's some speculation and rumors now, Congressman, that he has nothing and he's not even going to do. I've heard some people say he's not even going to do a report. Like he's got nothing. So he's just going to close it with nothing. And then Adam Schiff, your colleague, House Judiciary Chairman, House Intel Chairman, is saying, well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to continue my own investigation and subpoena my own people because I'm not sure that Mueller got it right. This is after, for 2 years, them telling us how great Robert Mueller is. So, I mean, you can't even say this stuff, Congressman, with a straight face.
Well, it certainly is. It certainly is different and shocking, but they have a right to hold investigations. That's part of what Congress does, and they can hold them. But I think they're going to end up looking like it's there's not a whole lot there because nothing from nothing leaves nothing.
That's the new math, right? Nothing from nothing leaves nothing. I don't know if Mueller has anything, but look, we all want this to get wrapped up. Whatever the report is he makes, I think should be made public, and let's all get on with it. Let the chips fall where they may, one way or the other, and just get on with the business of moving the country forward. The president's new choice for Deputy Attorney General Rothstein leaving by the 15th of the month, nominating Jeffrey Rosen for Deputy Attorney General. He's right now with the Department of Transportation. Do you have any thoughts at all on Rosen, sir?
No, I don't. I don't know him, and I don't know a lot about him. But the president's entitled to have the people that he wants, and absent some glaring problem, he should be confirmed.
Let's go to the president's tax cut package. Of course, people are now doing their taxes, and I just had somebody on earlier, I think at the 7 o'clock hour, that had a hearing in front of a subcommittee in Congress where they got 6 Democrats trying to prove that the president's tax cut package that you voted for is not benefiting the middle class and it's only benefiting big corporations and the rich. How do they continue this mantra when people are doing their taxes right now and saving thousands of dollars? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, it's an orchestrated effort to try to make it look like, the working man isn't getting a break and so forth. And there were some changes in there, and so they're making hay out of some of that. But the bottom line is that the standard deduction went up, the child tax credit went up, the tax rate went down. There are a handful of people, particularly in the high-tax northeastern states, with high real estate taxes who are being negatively impacted, but the vast majority of Americans are better off. Their refund checks, I thought this was interesting, the refund checks aren't as big. Well, the refund checks aren't as big because you didn't pay as much in taxes. So, you're still paying less no matter how you cut it.
The argument that the refund checks aren't as big is because you got more money in your paycheck for 52 weeks because part of the tax bill that you did, part of the provisions in that was to be able to lower the withholding taxes in your weekly or 2 times a month or monthly paychecks so that you would have more money on an ongoing basis and wouldn't have to wait for a refund and the government's holding your money for 12 months. I mean, and like, again, none of the Republicans except you and I and Whitman and a few of us are disputing this. I mean, it just goes on and on and on in the legacy media as if it's fake news because, if I was getting $50 a week more, I mean, I just got $2,600 this year. Of course, I'm not going to get that back into tax, but I got it in my pocket. Why should the government have that money for 12 months or actually 18? I don't get it back till May, 17 months. How does that make sense?
Well, it doesn't. And, but a lot of people like to get that refund check because they want to do things with it. What they don't realize is that while the government was keeping that extra money of theirs, they were paying interest if they had a credit card that they didn't pay off each month. They were paying interest on the things that they were buying, and the government wasn't giving them a penny of interest on the money they were keeping. So the bigger your refund, you have to calculate out what the interest on that money would have been for the year if you had it in your pocket. And so it's not just your tax money that you're getting earlier. you're also not paying interest on money that you might have put on a credit card because you didn't have it in your pocket at the time. So, it is interesting how people think, but there are people who just look at that refund and go, oh my gosh, I was planning last year I got, $5,000, and this year I'm only getting $3,500. Something's not right. And, that's because you got to keep $4,000 extra money in your pocket during the year.
Yeah, and then what the Democrats do is they exploit that and say, there you have it. There's proof in the pudding that the tax cut is not benefiting middle-class people when actually they got to keep a lot more of their money throughout the year. So the dishonesty, again, is amazing. Congressman, I want to get to Virginia for a minute. May we?
Sure.
Okay, so last night, results come in the special election in Loudoun County. And the Democrat candidate wins easily, as the person should, because the seat is highly blue, and this was for Senator Jennifer Bosco's old seat. But a lot of Democrats nervous because even though that the Republican Greg Halson got beat by Ibrahim Samari yesterday, the results were down between, somewhere between 17 and 20-point margin from what they were from Clinton and Kaine and Northam. So Ben Tribbett and others ran the numbers and said if this trend holds, Republicans in the House are going to pick up 10, 12, 15 seats, right, depending on what redistricting is, but they're going to substantially increase their majority. This was at like 8:20, right? 8:30, the Virginia House Democrats put another statement out calling on Justin Fairfax, the lieutenant governor, to resign. So let me get this straight. They get the results of the election. Forget Me Too, forget the victims, forget all that. They get the results of the special election. They panic and then immediately put out another statement calling on Fairfax to resign, thinking that that's going to help them in November. Is that one of the is this just a profile in courage here? Or, I mean, how do you put a statement out asking a guy to resign after election results come in that show you in a disfavorable way? Is it based on politics or is it based on what they believe in?
Well, there's another option out there, and that is that they've got more information that we don't know about. And they wanted to wait to move forward until after the special came in. And that within the next few days, and we won't know now, but in the next few days, they put more pressure on Fairfax, not because it's overtly political, but because they're sitting on some more information that there's a third woman or a fourth woman or something like that. Now, that's speculation. I have no information. Mm-hmm. I don't want anybody to think that I think there's a third or fourth woman out there. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But that's the only other reason. Either it's raw politics and they're scared, or they have information and they actually held off until after this election was over before they started moving forward with pushing him out of office.
Well, either way, though, wouldn't that be politically motivated? I mean, asking for somebody to resign based on politics, because it's either if they had the info and they waited, that would be politically motivated to help the delegate elect Samira win, or after the results aren't what they want, they do it to help them in November. Isn't it politically motivated either way based on the timing?
You are correct. The timing was picked for politics. Whichever theory is correct as to why they did it, it was done for politics. They didn't want to hurt their candidates, so they held back on information. Or they saw the candidate did less, and they know they've got to get somebody to resign because they're not going to be able to raise any money. That's their biggest problem.
Mm-hmm. That is the issue, no question about it. Congressman Morgan Griffith, shedding light where there's darkness. Thank you for being with us, sir. Always a pleasure.
Glad to be with you this morning.
More information, griffith.house.gov. John Fredericks Radio Network.